Hey everybody, Dr. Phil here. So this is going to be a video on organizational commitments in the kind of the broader realm context, a field of organizational behavior. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing we'll talk about in this video is organizational commitments. All right, and we're going to do this by looking at a brief scenario. So consider the scenario. You've worked at your current employer for 5 years and have recently been approached by a competing organization in the sense that they want you to come work for them. So what would cause you to stay? And do those reasons fit into different kinds of categories, right? And that's something that you could pause the video here and maybe think about yourself. Like if that happened to me, what would be some reasons that I might actually turn down the offer and maybe stay put? So organizational commitment is a desire on the part of an employee to remain a member of an organization. It doesn't mean that they won't leave, maybe if the money's good enough or if the opportunity is good enough. Um, but ceteris paribus, but all things other things equal, then they would likely want to stay put. Drivers of overall organizational commitments. So we kind of break this down into three categories. We have effective commitments, and we'll talk about all of these in a little more detail in a second. Effective commitments, continuous commitments, and what we call normative commitments. And all of these three types of commitment are felt in reference to one's management, the company, the people that run the place, the work team that you're a part of, if you're indeed part of a team, and also perhaps specific co-workers. And all of these tie into the overall organizational commitments. So let's talk a little bit more about effective commitments. So we can kind of define this more broadly as a desire on the part of an employee to remain a member of an organization because of an emotional attachment to and involvement with that organization. So as it says, you stay because you want to. And then what would you feel if you left anyway? So this a good example here would be a company where maybe the pay's good, maybe it's not that competitive, but maybe you like really believe in the mission of the institution of the enterprise. So that kind of keeps you there. And maybe you have situations, maybe you're already retired, so you don't really need the money as much. So you're okay with working for less pay because you just really believe in that mission. And then we have continuance commitments. So this is defined as a desire on the part of an employee to remain a member of an organization because of an awareness of the costs associated with leaving it. So here you sort of stay because you need to, right? So this is a little different. Maybe here you're not as tied to the organization. Maybe there are no better offers out there presently, so you kind of just have to, stay put. And then what we call normative commitments. And this is broadly defined as a desire on the part of an employee to remain a member of an organization because of a feeling of obligation. So you stay because you feel like you ought to, you're supposed to. Maybe they were good to you in the past. Maybe they helped you through a bad situation, an illness, right? So now you sort of feel like maybe you owe them. So you feel like it would be a little harder to leave. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't definitely leave. It just means that it would be harder, harder to leave because of this sort of perceived obligation. So reacting to negative events. Let's consider the three scenarios depicted on the following slide. And let's come to a consensus on two specific behaviors that capture your likely response. That is what you would probably do as opposed to, what you wish you would do. And again, there is, yeah, let me say this too. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what you would do versus somebody else. That's completely personal to you. That's unique to you, and there's no sort of right or wrong answer on this. Right before we get to that, four types of employees. We have task performance high, task performance low. And we have the stars, the citizens, the lone wolves, and the apathetic. So the people that are very highly committed to the organization are your stars and your citizens. So basically, what we're saying here is the stars, they perform well and their commitment's high. The citizens, the performance actually isn't that good, but they are committed, like they, the heart's in the right place, kind of thing. Um, Low performance is lone wolves. But they get things done. They're good at what they do, but their organizational commitment's low. And then the apathetics are the ones who they don't perform well, and they're really not, not committed to organization. So what are some trends affecting commitments? Well, a big one is diversity of the workforce, right? The workforce, as we know, is growing more racially and ethnically diverse. The workforce is also becoming older, and the workforce is also including more foreign-born workers. We're also seeing hybrid and remote work, certainly since the COVID contagion. So there's less, there's no commute, there's casual dress, maybe a better work-life balance. I think that can be questionable. Enhance continuance commitment, but may weaken effective commitments because you're just not around your colleagues, your co-workers, your bosses, peers, subordinates like you were before. And then also remote withdrawal behaviors linked to higher quitting rates. And that could well be tied. I don't think this has really been studied in any depth, but maybe those withdrawal behaviors and those higher quitting rates are maybe partly to do with the weakened effective commitments. And we're certainly seeing a changing employee-employer relationship, right? So we have what we call three types of contracts: psychological contracts, sort of the contract that even if you didn't have a paper contract in your mind, there's sort of this contract between you and your employer. There's also transactional contracts, more like an actual pen to paper or DocuSign kind of contract, if you will, but just think pen to paper. And then also relational contracts, maybe like again, maybe you really believe in the work that they do, so you sort of feel like maybe it's where you belong, even if maybe the money's good, maybe it's not, but you feel more of a relational contract there. And let's talk a little bit now about commitment initiatives. So employees are more committed when employers are committed to them, which of course, no brainer, makes sense, right? Perceived organizational support is fostered when organizations provide rewards, and that doesn't just have to be money. Maybe more time off, family events, and stuff like that. They try to protect their job security. That's becoming ever harder. Improve work conditions where they can, and also try to minimize the impact of politics. All right, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you all in a future video. Take care.